Today, we're going to tell you a story. It's a story about a hidden truth, and it comes from the archives of this really intriguing place called the Night Owl Hotel. It's about a life on the very edge of being completely rewritten.
So our story kicks off at the Night Owl Hotel. It's described as this kind of sanctuary, a place for people who find their clarity when the rest of the world is asleep. You know, it's where the truths you can only whisper during the day finally get a chance to be heard.
And that really brings us to the core question of this whole story, doesn't it? It's a question our main character, Rania, is forced to answer. And really, it's a question a lot of us might face, when the life you've worked so hard to build just doesn't feel like it's yours anymore. So, with that in mind, let's meet Rania.
Now, on the surface, Rania had it all. I mean, her life looked like it was pulled straight from a magazine. It was a perfect picture of success. But it was also kind of like that old saying about a gilded cage, absolutely beautiful from the outside, but still a prison.
I mean, just look at this list. It's like the ultimate checklist for the ideal life, right? The gorgeous home, the vacation spot, 2 amazing kids in college, designer everything, and of course, a handsome, successful husband everyone just loved. By any measure, she had totally won the game. It should have been enough.
But it wasn't. And that right there, that single thought, just cuts through all the glamour, doesn't it? It gets right to the heart of what was really going on inside.
And you know, this wasn't just a bad day or a passing mood. It was this constant, quiet ache that was just gnawing at her. And the worst part? She felt so guilty about it. She tried to pray it away, tried to force herself to just be grateful for this incredible life she had. But the feeling, it just wouldn't go away.
Well, that quiet ache doesn't stay quiet forever. Eventually, it builds and it builds until it just can't be contained anymore. And that brings us to the breaking point, the moment that internal struggle explodes into a full-blown crisis.
So picture this. It's New Year's Eve. A guest makes a totally innocent comment, something like, "Rania, your life is just so perfect." And that was the trigger, the final straw. She runs into her kitchen and just completely breaks down. We're talking decades of silenced feelings just pouring out in these uncontrollable sobs. And in the middle of all that chaos, a woman she barely knows, Natalie, doesn't offer empty platitudes. She just quietly hands her a card.
So that card, it belongs to Natalie, a life coach. Weeks go by. Then, during another long, sleepless night, Rania finds it. She makes the call, lies to her husband for the very first time about where she's going, and goes to meet the woman who's about to become her guide.
And this is what Natalie says to her. "I heard your silent scream." For the first time, maybe ever, someone saw past the designer clothes and the perfect smile. Someone actually acknowledged the deep, silent pain she'd been carrying around for years. Can you imagine the relief? Rania finally felt seen.
Okay, so being seen is huge, right? But it's only the first step. Now comes the really hard part. Rania has to start the work of figuring out where that scream was actually coming from.
Now, Natalie didn't give Rania the answers, she gave her the tools. And the work was pretty methodical. Journaling, with these really thought-provoking prompts, watching stories about other women who made brave changes, and reading a lot. And through this process, this painful truth started to surface. She had handed over control of her own life, little by little, dream by dream, until her own voice was barely a whisper.
This was one of Natalie's most important questions for Rania. What would you do if you were a bad girl? Now, this wasn't about being reckless. It was about giving herself permission to think outside the tiny boxes of good wife and good mother. It was designed to unlock all those desires she had pushed down for so long.
So Rania just keeps going. She keeps writing, keeps watching, keeps reading, and then after all that slow, steady work of digging, the answer doesn't just arrive gently. Oh no, it arrives like a storm.
It was this moment of just shocking clarity. Not a debate, not a gradual decision, but a sudden, undeniable bolt of lightning. A single, clear thought that just cut right through all the confusion.
And this was it. This was the thought. And look how incredibly specific and actionable it is. Not just I want a divorce, but a clear 3-step plan. Call a specific person, find a lawyer. This clarity was so overwhelming it actually terrified her, and she immediately called Natalie in a total panic.
So Rania is looking to Natalie for the answer, right? But Natalie refuses to give it to her. Instead, she asked this incredibly powerful question. She puts the choice squarely back on Rania. The decision wasn't about the next 20 days. It was about the next 20 times years. And with that, she handed Rania another card, this one, for the Night Owl Hotel.
And this is the final act. Rania has this huge, scary question to answer and an address in her hand. She's being pushed to make her next move. The moment of awakening is finally here.
And she didn't wait. That very night, while her husband, the symbol of her stable life, was asleep and totally unaware, she did the unthinkable. She scribbled a quick note, got in her car, and just drove for 2 hours into the night, guided only by the stars and the card in her hand.
And there, she stood between two worlds. I mean, think about it. Behind her was the house. That represented stability, sure, but also silence and the crushing weight of everyone else's expectations. But ahead, at the Night Owl Hotel, was the sea, the stars, and the exhilarating, terrifying feeling of freedom.
And on a terrace, overlooking the sea, with a cup of coffee in her hand, the decision became solid. Before the sun even came up, she had a new plan. It was clear, decisive, and it was entirely her own. She was no longer asking for permission.
And with that decision, the storm that had raged inside her for decades was finally over. The internal screams were gone, and in their place, she found the one thing her perfect life could never give her: peace.
So Rania's journey really leaves us with a question for ourselves, doesn't it? It asks us to listen closely to our own lives, because recognizing the scream is the first step. The real transformation, well, that begins with the very next decision you make.